Now we can look into that fight. Now with the man that's putting it all together, the multi-millionaire from Matchroom, Eddie Hearn joins us. Hello, Eddie. How are you?
Strange intro for you, Andy. But,
I like the way you didn't correct me though by saying no, I'm not.
well, I mean, what can I say?
How are you?
Thought the millionaire bit was a bit harsh, but what can you do?
You look wonderful, by the way. We can see you on YouTube now. You got like a cream jacket on, a cream shirt. When did the rest of the boys' own turn up?
Oh, what's going on?
Honestly, Eddie, come on and just battering you like that.
Blimey.
I'm joking. You look magnificent. Ahead of what should be quite an interesting fight. And I say interesting because I've seen both of these go face to face with each other. If I'm being honest, I'm a little bit worried about the sort of mental state of Ryan Garcia at the moment. What is the latest with him? I'm guessing he's okay, otherwise the fight's not going ahead, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, like, not my fighter. We've got Devin Haney in this fight, but he's definitely been acting uncharacteristically, we should say, in the build-up to this fight. I think he's got enough what you'd hope would be good people around him to make sure that he's okay going into the fight. He lifted his top up at the press conference yesterday, looked in unbelievable shape. So some people are saying he's trolling. I don't really believe that, but he's definitely on edge ahead of this one. The weigh-in's coming up in a couple of hours, so we'll see if he's on weight. He looked in good shape yesterday, but it's a fight. It's not a game of snooker or a putt on the 18th green of the Masters. Sometimes you've got to be a little bit crazy when you go in there. And listen, it might help him because in the past, people have said he's a little bit emotionally weak in fights. And, you saw him, I think quit's always a tough word to use for a fighter, but against Gervonta Davis, kind of looked for a way out in that fight. And he looks really pumped up. Devin's cool, calm and collective. I think it'll be an explosive fight. And I think it'll end inside the distance.
Eddie, you said it there about the fight against Gervonta Davis. I thought he was levels above Ryan Garcia. And I don't know why I expect the same in this fight, to Devin Haney to be levels above him again. Is that how you see it, or do you still think he's a really dangerous opponent?
I think styles make fights. He's very dangerous, Garcia, because he's got blistering speed and he's got heavy hands. And that makes you dangerous all the time. But Devin is technically, well, I'd say perfect. I mean, as close to perfect as you could be, really. And I think he's an outstandingly schooled fighter. Now he's moved to 140 pounds. I think he's punching harder as well. You saw in the last fight we did with Regis Prograis, he dropped him in the fight and dominated him. And Prograis a very good fighter. So styles make fights, but, I think that Devin is of the same ilk as Gervonta Davis, and I think he will be too good for him. But Ryan will be dangerous. If he catches Devin Haney, then, he's going to have a chance to hurt him. So I think it all depends, this newfound confidence or craziness that he has. If he comes out swinging, then he will be dangerous. But I expect Devin to pick him apart.
Eddie, let me ask you, from the broadcaster's perspective, this is, I think, a mouth-watering fight, and I'll be Sky Plusing it because I know it's live on talkSPORT, it's on the telly as well, but it's something like 4 a.m, give or take. What dictates when a fight as big as this is with European time or not with European time?
Really, the interest and the profile of the fighters. Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia are two American stars. So obviously it's prime time in the US. And we're seeing a lot of fights that we're doing now land in Saudi, which is actually great for the UK fight fans because they're 3 hours behind. So we're seeing those fights come in at 9-10 p.m. UK time. So unfortunately with this one, Ryan's a big star on pay-per-view in the US, and so is Devin. So US prime time for this one. So you'll have to watch live on DAZN or as you can these days via your digital app, just watch it in the morning.
Or listen to it on talkSPORT.
Or listen to it on talkSPORT. Yeah. Depends what you like. I mean, I think that's a lovely option as well. It's got everything covered, Andy, to be honest with you.
Eddie, if everything goes well, and I expect it will do, well, I think it will, and Devin Haney wins, what next for him? Because there are some big fights out there for him.
Yeah, I think at the 140-pound division, is probably one of the best divisions in the sport. You've got Subriel Matias, who's our guy, the Puerto Rican world champion as well. You've got Teofimo Lopez, massive fight. You've got Gervonta Davis, huge fight as well. So, yeah, I think, you've got even May 25th, you've got Jack Catterall against Josh Taylor, which is a mouth-watering fight. The winner of that's going to be in line fight for a world title. You've got Regis Prograis still. You've got Dalton Smith coming through, Richardson Hitchens. They're all our guys. So I think massive fights out there for him. I do see him moving to 147 at some point, but hopefully he can, secure those other belts or fight for them before he does that. But I think he's going to be at least a 3-weight world champion. He's a class act, and he's someone, don't forget, he's only 25 years of age. Like, he's so young in the sport. and he's so dedicated. He lives the lifestyle, so he's going to really have longevity in his career.
Eddie, let me ask you about something that was launched earlier in the week. That's Queensberry against Matchroom, the 5v5. Some unbelievable fights. I'm very excited about it. I want to talk to you about Zhang against Deontay Wilder, because you guys are looking after Deontay now. That's something I never thought I'd say. How did that come about?
Well, firstly, we never thought we'd work with Frank Warren. It's been, I think, one of the best things we've both done. And now, to add further strangeness to it all, we ended up signing Deontay Wilder for June 1st. So we had our picks across the weight classes. Then His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh had a wild card pick, and he chose the heavyweights. And I asked him if I could go and sign a fighter, because I had AJ was already fighting, Hrgovic is fighting Dubois. We've got Justice Hooney, an Australian guy, but he's a bit young. So he said, for this one weight class, you can go and sign someone. I thought, how funny would it be if I went and signed Deontay Wilder? I think he's going to bounce back. And we got him for one night only. And I made him the skipper of Matchroom as well, which is double up points in this format. And he's fighting Zhang, which is a part of a mouth-watering night on June 1st. You've got Bivol Beterbiev. And then those fights, Dubois against Hrgovic, Wilder against Zhang, Ray Ford against Nick Ball, Craig Richards against Willie Hutchinson, Hamza Sheeraz against Amo Williams. It's 6 complete 50-50 fights. And Wilder must win that fight. It's 2 massive punches. And hopefully I'm trying to get into him to get that fire back in his belly.
It is a great night of boxing. I'm just curious, we would never understand how a conversation with Deontay Wilder goes. So can you just talk me through the process? When you got the okay to sign him, do you phone him up? Do you speak to his people? Do you meet him for lunch? What happens?
Yeah, speak to his people. He's got a long-term manager, Shelley Finkel, who I've been up and down with over the years. I think the fact that it's in Saudi Arabia and, Deontay's got a good relationship with those guys out there as well, kind of helped with the whole situation. But I just said to him, look, I know we haven't always got on, but I think you can bounce back here. And if you win this fight, you're going to fight AJ. You could fight Usyk. You got fights with Parker. You rematch. I mean, there's so many big fights out there for him. But I said, you've got to get the fire back in your belly. And, he says it's there. He messed up against Joseph Parker. Parker boxed great, but he just didn't have that. People used to be petrified of Deontay Wilder, right? And I see that just evaporate a little bit by his presence. He's almost found peace with himself. And the last thing you really want to do when you're a fighter is find peace, because you're a man of war, and peace is no good when you go in the ring. And he fought peacefully in the fight against Joseph Parker. And we need that bad man back who likes to take heads off shoulders. And if he can do it, I think he knocks Zhang out.
That's the thing. You said it there, Eddie. And watching his last fight, Deontay Wilder, even after the fight, he was acting a bit strange. So when you met him and you spoke to him, I know you're promoting him and you want him to do well, but can you sense that can come back? Because we've seen previous fighters that have kind of lost that hunger and then never come back again.
It's just a confidence thing, I think, mainly. I spoke to AJ yesterday and I was talking to him about it a little bit, because I feel like he lost that way a little bit, like when he lost to Usyk. I don't know. I just think the confidence wasn't there. Now the confidence is there and he's absolutely firing on all cylinders. He feels unbeatable. And it's just like all sport. Once you lose your confidence a little bit, it's going to really affect the way that you play or the way that you fight. And I think Wilder lost a bit of confidence. Don't forget, he was out for a long time before he went back in the ring with Parker, probably like 18 months, and he only did 1 round. So although he's lost that fight, he's got rounds underneath him and he knows he's got to come out with bad intentions. He can't mess around against Zhang because he'll get walked down and beat up. So Zhang gets hit a lot and his movement's nowhere near as good as Joseph Parker. So Deontay Wilder's got to detonate that right hand on Zhang and also be careful you don't get those big 24-stone paws wrapped around your own head. These are lump.
I think that's good advice. Let me ask you about Tyson Fury against Usyk. They're set to fight for the undisputed heavyweight crown in about a month's time. Obviously, it was pushed back after Fury got his cut. That was a few weeks before the first fight was meant to take place. In percentage terms, Eddie, you personally, how sure are you this fight will definitely take place?
Oh, more sure than I am about any normal fight, because it's already been postponed once. Do you know what I mean? So, honestly, I've no doubts this fight happens. People talk about, was the cut real? I mean, it's the most ridiculous statement you could ever hear. The guy's making tens and tens and tens and tens of million, and he's been training away from his family for 9 weeks. You don't just decide to cut your eye to get you out of the fight. It's ridiculous. So they would have been devastated. I think it's going to help Fury in terms of his fitness. You know, he looks in great shape. I saw a video of Usyk the other day. He looks in tremendous shape. My pick's going backwards and forwards. I was with Fury, now I'm with Usyk. But I want Fury to win the fight. You know, I really believe the fight with AJ can happen if he wins. It's a pure 50-50 fight. It's one of the best fights that can be made in boxing. It's the undisputed heavyweight world championship. And, you know, it's what is it, 4 weeks this Saturday?
Yeah.
So you will see that fight without doubt.
Eddie, you say that, but just on the flip side, if Usyk wins, could we see AJ fight Usyk then for the third time?
You know what? Ben Davison and the team really like that fight now that AJ's backfiring. But, of course, the biggest fight in boxing is AJ against Fury. So, and the fact that he's a Brit, we're all cheering for Fury to do the business. And it's going to be a tough night. But Usyk, AJ 3, not a problem. AJ just wants to try and become a 3-time world champion. And, of course, it could end up be fighting for undisputed.
Eddie, one last question about the world of snooker. Obviously, it begins this weekend. What is it, Friday? So it's tomorrow it begins. Another 17 days at Sheffield. You know, I'm a big snooker fan. I love it. There has been talk, I think O'Sullivan has commented on it as well, about the possibility of maybe moving the World Snooker Championships away from the Crucible. I know Saudi has been talked about. It's a long way off. I know it wasn't that long ago that Barry, your dad, signed a new deal with the Crucible in Sheffield. I'm just curious as to your thoughts. Do you think it should remain there for as long as possible?
So there's 3 years left still. So it's a long time. The problem, if there is a problem, the problem with the Crucible is it's a very small venue and you're fairly limited in terms of the revenue you can bring to the event. And also the fact that, you know, local government and tourism in this country, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but just doesn't inject money in to bring international tournaments like other countries do. Okay, so like when you go to the Middle East or you go to Saudi, the government are looking to bring major international tournaments and events to the region. Same with other countries as well, by the way. I mean, China is another example that would be relevant to this conversation. So honestly, there haven't been any conversations at all with Saudi to do the World Championships. They have their first event earlier this year, and it's just been announced again for October. We just did a partnership with Saudi and Riyadh season to open the academy there with Ronnie O'Sullivan. So they're making an investment in snooker. There's been no conversations yet about the World Championships, but if there is an opportunity to significantly increase the prize pool of that event, then I think World Snooker would have an obligation to look at it on behalf of the players. We also recognise, especially my dad, the importance and the history of the Crucible. Like, my dad would really not want to move the World Championships. I look at it a little bit differently because I don't have the same passion for snooker that he does. I look at it and say, how can we make the prize money as big as possible? And by doing that, we may have to consider, after 3 years, potential options. But honestly, at board level, at any level, no conversations yet to move it from the Crucible. And we look forward to an incredible tournament. And I hope Ronnie can do the business. You know, I don't work with World Snooker, so I can be a little bit independent.
Yeah.
And I've spent a bit of time with Ronnie lately. I think he's an incredible character and a legend of the game. And hopefully he can be triumphant.
Yeah. Well, listen, I'm a big snooker fan. I'd hate to see it leave. So I don't necessarily like your answer, but I love how honest you've been.
Yeah, but Andy, like, you know, if you were a player.
Yeah, no, of course.
Yeah, I think, and I know the opinion. I agree with the opinion. I think it would be a shame to leave the Crucible. But if as a player you had a chance to make, I don't know, 3 times the prize pool in that tournament,
well, my argument would be surely there's the opportunity to make that money somewhere else in the calendar, because I think it would be a dangerous game to underestimate the power of the history behind an event.
Yeah, I agree. And I just feel like we World Snooker do have an obligation to look at opportunities for players.
Of course, I get that. But
you know, I get your argument as well, and I agree with you.
Okay.
For once.
Well, listen, it's. I love speaking to you, Eddie. Thank you so much for being so honest. Good luck at the weekend. It promises to be an absolute humdinger, that fight. I can't wait to watch it and see it, and etc. Thanks, Eddie. Have a safe day.
Take care.
Thanks. There you go. The wonderful Eddie. And being brilliantly honest about the snooker stuff as well. You don't want to hear it, but at least, you know, he's telling you as it is.
talkSPORT Drive. Super opinionated sporting debate. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.